Hello, I'm Nancy Bell from Oshkosh Public Library, and this is Book Buzz, where I'll take one book that's recently been getting a lot of buzz on bestsellers lists, review sites, or social media. I'll break it down into definable elements, and then I'll suggest 3 books that have similar themes, writing styles, characters, and overall general vibes. So for this month of September, which is really focused on going back to school, I really wanted to talk about a subset genre of adult fiction, which is new adult fiction. So it focuses on protagonists that are between the ages of 18 and 30. You know, they're just starting their college careers or finishing their college careers and figuring out their first steps into adult life. So I figured a really good starting point to talk about new adult fiction would actually be to talk about Colleen Hoover. And so It Ends With Us is consistently on the bestsellers list because of its popularity on Book Talk, which is also a subset on TikTok. So why is this book so popular, and why is everyone seemingly obsessed with it? Why can you see thousands of videos of people crying while they read this book? And what can you read after this? So first up, you should probably read the sequel, which comes out next month in October. It's entitled It Starts With Us. But let's talk about It Ends With Us, and then I'll give you some great read-alikes for you to read after you finish this book. So a bad summary of it is that it's a romance novel with a love triangle at the middle with these really cheesy characters involved. Our main female romantic protagonist is Lily Bloom. She even has a name that matches her career. She owns a flower shop. Then there's Ryle Kincaid, who is a surgeon who never wants to get married or have kids, but he's deeply in love with our girl Lily. And then there is finally Atlas Corrigan, who is Lily's first love, who was originally homeless when they met, but now he's a successful chef, and he wants her to leave Ryle. So are these actually the characters? Yup, they are. Is that the plot? No, it's not. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you're reading this book for the romance and the happily ever after, do not stop. You will cry and hate it. This is not actually what I would classify as a romance novel because it doesn't have that happily ever after. So while this book is definitely about the relationship between Lily and Ryle, even more than that, it's about Lily's lifelong struggle with abusive relationships and the reality of leaving the abusive relationship she has with Ryle. It's really about the slow emergence of abusive behaviors and these warning signs that are easily ignored because of their redeeming qualities, until almost all of a sudden you're faced with an event that's overwhelmingly not okay. But how can you just leave this person you love? So for those reasons, those elements really make this book totally unique, in my opinion, and that's why people really love it. So again, it focuses on a subgenre of adult fiction that many people aren't aware of, and it really speaks to people of this age. Again, 18 to 30, issues during, after college, and right before your real career. It also hits a spot of intricately plotted in the narrative. It's told from Lily's point of view in the present, but also there are flashbacks to her childhood diary. It's also really issue-oriented, as it's focusing on the issue of domestic abuse in relationships, and there aren't that many books that do it from this standpoint of a romance novel. The tone is absolutely heart-wrenching. We're super emotionally invested in Lily and her story. We care about her, and we're flipping through these pages compelled to read more about her story and hoping that she gets a happy ending. And ultimately, it's up to you whether or not it's a happy ending or not. I'm not going to spoil it. But these are kind of the elements that I'm going to be looking for in read-alike suggestions for fans of It Ends With Us. So let's go ahead and talk about a book that has a very complex compilation of elements, just like It Ends With Us. So in 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, Dani Cohen is living her best life. She recently got engaged to the man of her dreams, and she just aced her job interview that she's been striving for since law school. Then she awakens in an apartment she doesn't recognize, and a man who is definitely not her fiance. But she knows inside of her that she has deep feelings for him, and she actually recognizes those feelings as love. Then she wakes up back in her real life, and she's bothered by this vivid dream. Cut to 4.5 years later, without any wedding date set, her best friend Bella is back from Europe with her new boyfriend, and that man is the mystery man from Danny's dream. So the premise seems like, again, like a bad love triangle that's going to go wrong between Danny, her best friend Bella, and Bella's boyfriend, not to mention Danny's fiance. But this book is so much more than the romantic relationships on the surface. At its core, it's still very much a love story, but it's the relationship between Danny and her best friend Bella. That's the relationship to keep an eye on. So why did I say that this is a good read-alike for It Ends With Us? Let's go ahead and take a deeper look at those elements. So first up, I would consider it new adult fiction. It has those younger protagonists who are kind of figuring out their lives, still going on job interviews very early on in their career. It's really intricately plotted. We actually have this dream/time jump element that kind of plays out like a mystery. We're paying attention to details to try and figure out who the mystery man is, who's the man that Danny should really be with, what's going on with her and her best friend. So we're really paying attention to those small, intricate details of the story. It's also really heart-wrenching. There's a big plot twist in here that absolutely pulls on your heartstrings, and it is sure to make some TikTokers ugly cry. We have those same emotional attachments to these characters as we did to Lily in It Ends With Us. So for those reasons, I really think it's a good follow-up to It Ends With Us. So if you actually enjoy more romantic elements instead of the tear-jerking, emotional, heartbreaking elements from It Ends With Us, this is a solid read-alike choice for you. This is All Lined Up by Cora Carmack. Our main female protagonist is Dallas, and she is finally going to escape being under the shadow of football. That's right, she's come second to a sport her entire life. Her father is a Texas high school football coach, and he really believes that Dallas's only worth is in marrying a football player. Yep. Our male protagonist, Carson, is a second-string quarterback who desperately needs the football scholarship and the future that the sport provides. Then Dallas's father makes a jump to coaching college football at her college. Ugh. So Dallas doesn't know Carson is a football player. Carson doesn't know that Dallas is the new coach's daughter, and their real-life problems begin to collide and invade their burgeoning romance. Okay, if you don't get why I said that it's a read-alike, I understand. To the elements. Quarterback who desperately needs the football scholarship and the future that the sport provides. Then Dallas's father makes a jump to coaching college football at her college. Ugh. So Dallas doesn't know Carson is a football player. Carson doesn't know that Dallas is the new coach's daughter, and their real-life problems begin to collide and invade their burgeoning romance. Okay, if you don't get why I said that it's a read-alike, I understand. To the elements. It's new adult fiction. These are college students with nothing but possibility in front of them. Okay, you're right, it's totally not heart-wrenching. It's not. This one is a solid romance story. There is a happily ever after, I will say it right now. But we are emotionally invested in the love story between Dallas and Carson. Their story is told from both of their viewpoints, which I have always found to be a much more compelling way to get us invested in their characters right away. It's issue-oriented. While this is a much lighter love story than It Ends With Us, the main characters still really have real-life problems that reveal themselves to be more than some issues we see in fluffier romance novels, like a simple misunderstanding or miscommunication. So for those reasons, I think that if you're into the romance aspect of a more college-feeling, not romance book, this will be a good series for you to start with. On the other end of the spectrum, this read-alike has more of a coming-of-age focus for people who enjoy new adult fiction, but not necessarily the romantic elements that always seem to be a part of young adult and new adult fiction novels. So this book is The People We Keep by Allie Larkin. In this book, April Sawicki is a 16-year-old living on her own after her father abandons her to live with his girlfriend. She really finds refuge in music, and she performs at open mics, hoping to make it as a professional musician someday. until her father comes back and breaks her guitar in a fit of rage. After that, April flees in a borrowed car. She's now penniless and homeless, and she's resigned to lying about her age to land jobs and struggling to get by. She does struggle to get by. She succeeds in kind of like busking and working waitress gigs, but a cycle of April's secret being discovered about her lying about her age and her background leads to her running away from the truth, and it really begins to define her life until she's finally forced to make the decision to keep running away or to be mutually vulnerable and create stable relationships. So the elements leading me to my read-alike suggestion. So technically this could be classified as a young adult novel as the protagonist is under 18. But I find that with the book being set in 1994, it kind of leads us to have that feeling of nostalgia from the 90s. Like, I'm 31 now. I didn't think that the 90s were that long ago. Apparently they're considered historical fiction now. Wild. But having it set in 1994 really creates this character who really feels older than her 16 years of age. And she does age up into her 20s during the book, so I would classify it as new adult fiction. This book isn't necessarily heart-wrenching, but it's definitely emotional. We're following April through this cycle of fleeing and reinventing herself, and while it's depressing, it does really have more of a hopeful tone as opposed to like an absolute giving up tone. It also has a similar vibe from like an inner monologue perspective, and it ends with us. It has Lily's diary entries from when she's younger to provide context for her struggles. And in The People We Keep, we have deeper insight into April through her songwriting that appears in the book. So if you're really more into the coming of age aspect of a story like this, where they're dealing with similar domestic struggles, The People We Keep could be a really good read-alike for you. And those are the 3 read-alikes I have for you today. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the library's YouTube channel for more content. If you have any suggestions or questions, please go ahead and leave a comment. You can always get a hold of me at the library reference desk, which I'll link to down below. Thanks so much for watching, and let's get back to reading.